the law and not given to anybody a single penny to that sector. The Taxation Tax Bar Association has been constantly making efforts to identify areas where reforms and justification is needed for the broadening of taxpayers. And here I would like to praise the efforts of the hard work done by the Tax Reform Commission, headed by the Associate President of the initiative by the government. PRC, the Tax Reform Commission, has already submitted a very detailed report to the government of Pakistan, and now it's the duty of the government to make sure that the suggestions are implemented properly and effectively for the betterment of the country in true democratic spirit. Facilitation is called the demand of taxpayers at all levels. Harassment of taxpayers should be condemned not only the argument but also creating the trust between the taxpayer and the department. Conducting tax audit and monitoring of levied taxes are the major area in which the taxpayer feels that is the biggest area of harassing the taxpayers. Likewise, the imposition of penalties in case of late filing of tax returns and withholding statements is a big issue for the taxpayers. These are very harsh, and this is due to the black law, the black law of the penalties and which huge amounts are prescribed under the provisions of the city. I suggest that the learned speakers look into this matter critically and suggest that we are reviewing the whole law on the subject. The regular compliant taxpayer, which is the backbone of this country, has a feeling that he or she always be held by the tax collector, which issue means address at large again and again. Classical bar once again heard that the proper respect should be given to regular compliant taxpayers because they are doing a huge amount of collection in terms of the building taxes, which are deducted according to the tax on behalf of the people without any compensation is being for the government. And on the contrary, they are only one who are facing penalties. Before I conclude, I would like to give my sincere thanks to Mr. Ramiro Hamadi and Malaya Bishop of Punjab, who traveled all the way from Sabah, Karachi, and our special guest and consented to the chief guest for the seminar. My sincere thanks to the speakers for accepting our invitation to the seminar to share their views with respect to the budget. A special thanks to the committee of the CCA for providing me with the opportunity to organize this seminar jointly in collaboration with the CCA. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now we take this program to the next stage, which is proposing our budget proposal. So initially, first presentation will be from the Karachi Tax Court Association, implementation of the direct taxes is by Mr. Heather Ali, FA, and he is president of the Tax Court, and also tax now invite photos. May I welcome please give it applause to
Chief Justice of Amazing Day, members, operations, Chief Commissioner, Karachi, former President, Pakistan Taxpayers Association, and taxpayers. And representatives of taxpayers association, members, president, taxpayers and secretary, taxpayers declarers, and respected senior workers in Pakistan, Mr. Arif, Mr. Mirza Sahab, former chief of Fiscal Pakistan, and also the speaker. First of all, I am thankful once again to the City Committee of Taxpayers Association for giving this opportunity to express my views before this August House. And I like some of the key proposals that the Financial Expert Association is going to make. It's time to be clear and also not only we talk about the policy proposals, but we also be highlighting operational issues which create which are creating taxpayers and associations, but also cover a few of those issues which will create difficulties for the taxpayers and legal issues. The tax bars of the country actually have a very unique position as compared to other bodies because the tax bars are the ones who are connected to the FDR and the tax partners of the different businesses. So they are very much aligned to the situation whether we want to say that the tax department and the two wheels which together make this wheel of collection of taxes make it possible for the country. So I'm sure that throughout the year we have very good information in the FDR, the present committee of the tax plan, the action on the soul as well as the echo of Pakistan. So, starting the presentation, if you look at the overview slide, I just look at the broad issues. Wherever we are standing today, whatever we have achieved and whatever we have achieved in the country today, I felt these are 4 or 5 broad issues. That we have been experimenting in many ways to order the taxes in the country, but many times it has been that exercises taken from time to time, we haven't been able to really get together people around it. We haven't been able to attract stakeholders to come and make a stake on a policy. And it's been really, in the end, it looks like they are taking the lead and to a certain extent, tax bars, but really it's not been the business at large, behind any policy experimentation that could happen to taxes. So the need of the hour is to, continuously talk to different stakeholders and see what the places are there, what are the issues there, why are people trying on getting the tax act, there's 4 issues which are preventing people from coming to tax. We have been relying on several schemes in the past. We have tried various methods. I don't know how many FSC schemes we've got in previously. Industry scheme for traders, which in the beginning I know we talked about thousands of millions of rupees coming in government trade, modest amount to everybody. So again, we also felt at that time it was talking about that and also that we are not really talking to stakeholders who are there. We are not connecting to the right people. I think that is where the gap is, and that's the core reason why this scheme came about. And there's so many schemes in the past. We are all new with this. I've spent about 20+ years now. We've been examining all of these schemes very closely. So unless we take everybody together, I think the vessel won't go forward. Then we've had multiple, we've ended up in a tax system which is really multiple. We have the normal tax system which is in line now, it's very small chunk of the whole tax collection. We have made direct tax, indirect tax more completely, and with the time passing, we are expanding that more and more. For no other reason but for raising the tax revenue. But that is not really, what I would say, giving the right message to taxpayers. Very, very able to know really that's the right income. So it's a haphazard matter of collecting taxes and enforcement. We are going more and more rather than reverting back to our taxation as years past. We are moving forward with this multiple tax system of FTR and new tax rules. And finally, whatever is the manufacturing sector in Pakistan is, I think, the one which is now lacking to be taxed on local tax, on the corporate tax basis or individual tax rate basis or profit line basis. And that too, has been manipulated very times by companies, but most people have more and more tax, in the shape of super tax or taxing the users, alternate corporate tax. We've done so many things to that, and investor now is really, he doesn't know really what the next thing is going to happen. Every year from now, people are talking super tax regulation or not. So, are you going to have super tax once again or something else? So, there's the thought. Everything is just hashtag. That people don't really know. So, it's grown businesses which have already slow startup and a slow and then getting returns and they don't want to go for those businesses. People are more attracted towards businesses that are getting higher returns. If you see the overall investment also in the CPAC so far, we are seeing infrastructure projects coming up and the largest kind of government looking power sector. One of the main reasons for that is not only the needs power, but the government is guaranteeing a minimum guaranteed return on all the projects. So whatever tax goes up or it goes down, it's a pass on.
जी वालेकुम सलाम.
They are guaranteed ROI for the return. So that's where the investment is coming in. Nobody is
जी स्टार्ट हो गया.
get into businesses where the tax.
आपने रजिस्टर कराया था?
At least if those who are taking that,
आपने रजिस्टर कराया था?
they will do that, but
ठीक है आप ज्वाइन कर लो.
Tax pickups. So, tax policies beginning with the reduction and the general investment environment for people are looking for looking at the stock market going sky high. But that's all for investors to come and go. These are not plausible investments from a Pakistan perspective, where you have a population of hydropower services will take you to definitely 20 plus crore people. We don't need investment which creates more jobs for people. Number one, that has to be the most important priority. That's not getting through. So one has to be, and I think this policy making again this is a opportunity for the government to think again and think realistically what's this, especially on the taxation front, what policies are important. So we continue to so then there's certain issue on the capital side where I felt I took this side at the last moment yesterday when I thought that there was some immediate remedies that what signals are giving at the moment. On the one hand, we are talking very clearly of the tax net on one hand and on the ground what is happening is that the tax department appears to be, I don't know what's the history and the meeting happens, but it appears to me that it's a mad rush of tax collection. And that too solely from existing taxpayers. So what is happening is that there was a meeting here, I think 2 days back, and I went to a senior officer after that, and they told me, he said, "Sare assessment is a very वो लगता है ऐसे कि वो उल्टी के नीचे हो गया ये मैं आपको So the result is when I have look at last blindfolded and their assessment. So actually लिखी देता है वो लोग पहले बातें लिखी देता है सामने का ये हमारे साथ में कितने लोग हैं इसमें अगर मैं गलत कह रहा हूँ ये प्रॉपर जुमला आ गया है जो लिखा है ये तो सर ये सोचो क्या हम लोगों ने डिवाइड कर दिया फाइनल हम डाटा करते हैं जो आएगा ये एक नेगेटिव फिनोमेना है जो लगता है कि वो गुणन के पीछे पड़ गया है तो इसको पूरा करना है 36 पूरा करना है 3 महीने का करना है 3 महीने का करना है तो एक लोग इतना करना है अक्सर कहता है इससे वो डिवाइड करते हैं नंबर निकालते हैं इसके ऊपर कितना लेंगे और मुझे कहता है पिछले साल में इसके अंदर 500 मिलियन दिए मैं कहता हूँ भाई 4 साल का समय सब कुछ नहीं है खाली है कहता नहीं 500 कहाँ से तो डायलॉग जो है वो बंद हो जाएगा उनको ना कोई एक कोर्ट में जाने की जो है ऑडिट की नोटिस जो है आपने कंपनी की सिलेक्शन की सबसे पहले बहुत सारे क्रिटिकल किसी को दौरा है और आगे नहीं आएंगे इसमें आई डोंट नो मैंने इसलिए जाना पहले मेरी वो 4% मॉनिटरिंग से पड़े हुए आई का अलग नोटिस पड़ा हुआ है तो हम लोग उसका ये उसको साइड पर लगाओ तो ये इसको देखने की बड़ी जरूरत है कि ये अपने काम नहीं कर रहे जो बंदा इनसे बाहर बैठा है इसके पीछे आगे में खड़ा है पीछे आप जा रहे हैं अच्छी बात है लोग पहले पीछे आप बिल्कुल नहीं लेकिन बुलाने वास्ते पायलट जो कर रहा है थोड़ा वो देखने में लेकिन ये I think 8 years of college experience so doing something you have to study so I don't whether I'm taking any right from the side maybe no but generally you know those who have not had deliberately doing analysis multiple types of things जो मैं लगा सकती हूँ ऑडिट भी हो रहा है अलग अलग एक्सपेंस का भी आ गया है बड़े की बात है 15 का अलाइनमेंट असेसमेंट हो गया है और हम ऑडिट की सिलेक्शन आने होगी उस स्टेज पे करने में कुछ नहीं है सारी बुक हो रही तो करने में कितनी बार आ रहा है मैंने तो भाई से भी अपने ऑडिट भी लेके गए तो वो दिस इज व्हाट इज लीडिंग पीपल अगर हम ये कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव पॉलिसी बना रहे हैं तो एक साथ सबसे पहले लीगल इशू नोबडी इज कमिंग आउट फ्रॉम लुकिंग एट द लीगल इशू नोबडी इज कमिंग आउट फ्रॉम लुकिंग एट द मॉनिटरिंग साइड ऑफ व्हाट केसेस दे लीगल में आपके पास सारी चीजें हैं लेट अस कम आउट विद द फार्मूला कि सारी चीजें एक साथ से नहीं की possible rather than multiplicity of positions and different and then multiplicity of authorities एक कहते हैं कि हमारा कमिश्नर है कमिश्नर है का इश्यू दोनों के पास सेम होता है कितनी दफा कोशिश करेंगे कितनी दफा होगा कभी कभार रेगुलर इश्यू है कि देयर नॉट अफेक्ट सिचुएशन so then decide to do a particular review so there has to be some harmony at the top with the NPR इसको कितनी ज्यादा रिव्यू प्रोसेस क्या कर रहा है and then along with that there is a controversial problem अक्सर ऑडिट सेक्शन होता है अक्सर कोर्ट में रहेगा एक दफा हम बैठ के मीटिंग कर लें कि कोर्ट का सॉल्यूशन किसने करना है इसका सॉल्यूशन कोर्ट ने करना है या पर्सनल करना है हम तो पर्सनल से कह रहे हैं कौन सी डेट से हमने कंटेंट पे आया है तो इसमें दिया है और टू वन से कोर्ट को बड़ी क्लियर डालता है सेक्शन में कि कोर्ट सेलेक्ट कर ले डिपार्टमेंट छोड़ दे नया लाके बिजनेस से करो जवाब This was some of the points and this is also one of the reasons why some guys after managing fiscal management without paying tax, becoming a tax file, also has now become very difficult for somebody to go into fiscal side business without paying tax file. Sales tax and education but still people are managing to keep out and This is, I think, also one of the key issues. If the existing taxpayer will be happy to pay his taxes and everything, where I think more focus on income. This is a suggestion from us. We will hear नहीं हुआ है कुछ हो सकता है we still have a middle class files let's take care of them कोई ये नहीं कह रहा है कि हम उनसे जो राइट टैक्स है वो ना लें बट एक साथ मल्टीप्लिसिटी के साथ हम लोगों को बहुत बड़ा टैक्स को लगता है कि किसी दुकान वो चीजें नहीं now coming to the policy side बहुत सारी गुजारिश है जिसमें ऐसी है तो we have been making I think in the past also but I think it was very important. So, when there is one important suggestion here, there is a tax credit, when we are talking about expanding taxes, and it is more equal to the tax land. I think it is very important to incentivize the taxpayers to do business, that they continue to do business with only registered taxpayers. And by this, I don't mean that you can still make business to registered persons, but also incentivize them to do the purchases for registered persons. So the suggestion here is that the district benefit of tax credit is only to manufacturers. I think this credit should be extended to all persons from our business, and you can go to registered sales registered persons. So if they can also avail the benefit of licenses and others, you can get this credit also. So here, you can allow they also be eligible for this. Secondly, the 90% restriction to make sales should be extended to persons making 90% of purchases from persons registered as business. They should also be commercially eligible to get a credit of 5%. And 5% towards how 5% but I think 5% people will get the benefits then of whether going for a registered person or not. Because otherwise we would actually cost बड़ी बड़ी टैक्स की तो प्राइस में कंपीट कर लेता है जनता का Indian government dividend from this house also been negotiating as to promote growth taxation and growth formations in businesses. But what happened last year was a shock to all of us that you restricted government restricted the Indian government didn't allow to those companies also eligible for group B. And it is now only restricted to those companies that have 100% of subsidies and who are eligible for 30%. So my suggestion is that our principal suggestion is that inter-government agreement should be totally tax-free to allow free growth of companies within the groups. And well, if that is not affordable, of course, at least for historically position prior to that is allow companies that are still registered in the group relief and group taxation. So this is about derivatives. Then I know this is something that has exceptionally happened in 2015. That we are never prepared to do this, but it has done this. Which I was trying to make our right. These rights are rights are very sense. So, effectively, what we are saying that for service sector people whose tax is in that going to be whatever tax they have to do compare that as 8% for corporate and 10% for non-corporate sector people. This effectively means that you are expecting the service companies to have a net margin of 25%. To be equal to the tax and the corporate tax. So that's phenomenally high in most of private businesses. That's not achievable in business sector. In many service sectors where state administrative and corporate even 10% margin, if somebody is doing that, that's very good. So most of these companies in the service sector are having a very high tax. But last time also I think we are increasing this I don't know, we are exploring that. I don't know, the results are chief guest will highlight on that. But this is a very important. If you can't do anything, then it's really get tax and set it down to 2% growing, which is very hard to do like this. At least, then some of them will come out of that minimum tax situation. And many of them. They start paying tax and they will paying tax on the tax, on lower tax on their profits. Then we move forward. Undistributed reserves, 4% for Uganda नहीं रहेगा, लेकिन मैंने नहीं रखा। तो तो बड़ा genuine, demand बड़ी genuine है। कि why should you extend this reserve again? तो इसमें principle तो ये होना चाहिए। There should not be a tax again. Somebody wants to reserve, लेकिन distribution वो के dividend shareholders के हाथ में आना, इसको अच्छा नहीं, अच्छा है। Maybe only talking about companies. So the condition is that 40% can have sometimes your investment plans, your reinvestment plans don't allow. Then it becomes very harsh to do that. So then at least the reserves will be able to respond to the reserves की जगह आप उससे profits का invest करते हो. अगर किसी ने distribute किया, I think that will be fair because then it will be tax on the ones. अगर आप reserves में invest करेंगे तो वो अगले महीने में invest करेंगे. What is the worst case scenario? Not saying this is the but at least understood who exactly again, if you really want to broaden the taxpayers and promote real income declarations, then one has to seriously think about going out with the kind of tax regime. In 2012, we took a bold step, we moved out, we said, okay, we give you an option to offer, and then there were certain conditions, but still many people opted out of that. But resultantly, even natural processes is to FTR and Kata Hoga, only on offer. So, इसका टैक्स नॉर्मल टैक्स में कम कर रहा होगा कोई अकाउंट में इसका ज्यादा कर रहा होगा तो ऑप्शन है so this is what happened exactly in 2012 when people opted out they declared their profits and the tax was going up to their so then again this tax collection issue came out and we reverted back in 2 years later for me and we said no there is an option but the option is that your tax has to be at least equal to the tax rate. So now nobody knows. या तो भी ऑप्शन कहने में इग्नोर रखेगा या हम ऑप्शन ले तो कोई डिसीजन है लेकिन वो ऑप्शन में आएगा तो देन भी बोलता है आपको वो मॉडल and the next proceed to like to that also we have also so in my view those people who opted out they were genuinely engaged by the tax. They were ready to take the risk of tax audit when a tax proceeding did that. Now with no benefit of paying tax, why was opt for the option to go out of it? And also someone the benefit of going through the proceedings of tax audit. So it's a non-starter actually at the moment. या तो इसको ऑप्शन को रखना है तो उसको रखना है या इस ऑप्शन को रखना है तो वैसे कोई here this option I want to go to section to the bar. One is in the corporate sector at least should be excluded from the private tax because that is the sector which needs to operate accounts. It has a book of accounts, we already by the auditors. This is always that has there is no national violation that has fixed basis. Number two is to opting on a kind of is valid to cover all incomes for the that's also one from the members of the bar. The rate of minimum tax opting out of final taxation is used to raise the difference between my tax. That's also about giving 2 to 3% to opt out of the final taxation. talking about the commercial economy, we are talking about industries who are importing raw material or plantation for business. Now, for import of raw material by manufacturers, the scheme that we provide in the law, it does not show people who are getting new business this year or you are getting into a new line of production. This scheme of exemption is not shown. There are primarily two reasons for that. That for qualifying for exemption, the maximum import of raw material is restricted to the extent of 110% of the previous year's import value. You have to have at least 1 year before you start getting exemption, make it a base rate. Number two, it is mandatory to pay tax equal to higher of last 2 tax years' value. Now, suppose in the third year there is a company which is going for an expansion and it is going to enter into acquisition, it's never going to meet its tax liability as in the previous year where there was expansion and no use of this. So, to expect that company to at least meet 2 years tax liability and after they have paid so much tax, then you allow the exemption, that is unfair because this exactly ends up with more income. So, we have been promoting that this exemption should be, very more taxpayer friendly, more investment friendly. And the suggestion to the bar is the maximum value restriction be at least in 50% of the requirement of last year's requirement. That is the value of our material, the volume of our material that is imported. And with the condition for at least paying last higher than last 2 taxes, that should be agreed upon. And at least this exemption will have some meaning. Because we are there at this moment, there are many sectors in this country which have, because of the sea factor, they would be going into that kind of regulation. They are going into it. The steel industry, the cement industry, and many more industries linked to the infrastructure development, not going for expansion. Once they go into expansion, they are first to have a huge level of taxation. Because of that, highly unlikely that they will get the tax liability of the year or previous year. So then, effectively, they do not become eligible to get this exemption. They have to suffer a certain number of tax to get this exemption. So it becomes meaningless and again, a lot of working capital gets then certain I would say impediments in day-to-day businesses. This provision that for any account where the aggregate amount is again threshold, you cannot make cash payments for all salaries at 50,000 or 15,000 or above the section you. Now, this is a very complicated concept I can many years ago. And this, we are repeatedly saying that this has to be, this number needs to be at least include the minimum threshold to be brought up to 25,000. The larger already says it has to be 50,000 at least now, because keeping in view that this 8,000 was brought back many years back, so there has to be a serious thought on this number that these are the ground realities that the minimum wage in Pakistan now is 14,000 rupees. So that also needs to be considered for salaries. 15,000 was for accurate. The minimum wage 14,000 and 50,000 per year. Foreign tax credit, there is a bit of a lacuna which many companies who are willing for the credit from outside the US. But many companies are looking for BJK. The issue here is that to obtain a tax credit, then the tax has to be paid within 2 years. After the end of the tax credit, foreign income, the tax credit was derived and there is a tax credit. So what happens if in an outside country, the assessment is done 3 years later, when there is a tax paid later on their income. Or suppose there is a receivable, it generates somehow of 2 years. But these are practical realities. It may sound that these are very specific realities, but we have found that these issues are there, coming up in cases where there are disputes now that the tax rate, which is received after delay, is not being allowed. So this, I suggest, needs a look into that report. This is a very near and dear proposal, at least from the past perspective. We have been reviewing this proposal since the day this inspection has been done in 2023. And we are saying that what we have done is we have made an officer of Indian Revenue of grade 20, who is I think a law graduate, eligible for becoming a judicial member of the tribunal. We are already there as an accounting member. But we are not saying we cannot become a judicial member, but the problem here is that the other two conditions that who can become a member of the judicial member of the tribunal is that there can be a person who has worked as a district judge, who is eligible to be a judge of the High Court. Or there can be a person who is an advocate and who is again eligible to be a judge of the High Court. He can be a member of a judicial member of the tribunal. Now, by inserting in 3C, 133C, what we have done is we try to create people who are eligible to become microfinance, the Indian revenue officers who are only law graduates. I think that's not fair. Let's have, national and this amendment needs to be really seen in the tax, and then if Indian revenue people are also on the judicial side, I think we're talking about it. So let's keep that balance the way it is. Accountant members are always equal to the Indian revenue side, and I think the work is working perfectly well. With one person from the judicial side, there is to be judicial background, and the other from the judicial side. So our proposal is that 133C should be included. Now I will quickly run through some of the issues which we have highlighted here for removal of hardships to taxpayers. Penalties is a very highly talked about subject in the bar, and people generally feel taxpayers definitely because it's coming from their pockets, but even the tax constituents feel that penalties are a bit harsh. The tax payable, the penalty for not filing of tax return for years was linked to tax payable, and by tax payable to able to get any tax was payable now with return. And that was what the judicial clause also confirmed in those cases. But then one fine morning, there was an explanation in this law which said non taxable means total tax liability, irrespective of whatever taxes you pay. So, penalizing something which has already been paid is, I think, a double jeopardy. So, I think we are pressing this years on years since this amendment has come. And we will continue to press this because this is an unfair recognition. So, my presidency is a matter. Number two, again, I would like to highlight there is a penalty for non-furnishing of certain statements that the taxpayer has to withhold tax and then report statements are mostly also covers statement in the final taxation. And what the larger concern is the statement in number 65, where you report the tax that has been withheld. And the minimum penalty now per day is 2,000 with a minimum of 10,000 rupees. Immediately, I think it should be a minimum of 200 rupees per day. And then after the imposition of the first penalty, it should not be 2,000 rupees, and then if the penalty was imposed for the first time, then it should be 400. That's how it should be. But now it's very harsh, it says 2,500 rupees per day, and with the minimum penalty of 10,000, which means if you go army, semi-tax, put together share tax, and that was penalty will be. Tax code not even have to go over, the penalty is, I think, too harsh for compliance. So, this needs to be rationalized, and our suggestion is that the penalty subject to a maximum penalty of 10,000 rupees. And in case of failing to report after the first penalty, then you can impose a penalty of 1,000 rupees or whatever you like for it. Because then the guy has no chance to justify, if he doesn't justify, then that's fine, then you can erase the penalty. But there has to be a first order. Most order of department is दोनों तरफ इशू है और अब तो आई मॉनिटरिंग इज वेरी एग्रेसिव एंड आई थिंक वन फाइल इन द सेकंड मंथ में होता है तो दैट शुड नॉट बी पेनल्टी एक्चुअली शुड नॉट बी रेवेन्यू जनरेटिंग मेजर दैट्स इट शुड नॉट बी मेड एज रेवेन्यू जनरेटिंग मेजर तो थोड़ा फटकस के बाद आएगा दूसरा वो नहीं होना चाहिए then I really don't know about this issue because probably दूसरा बोल रहे हैं वो रिफंड नहीं करता है रिफंड की बात हम करते नहीं लेकिन सरकार ने रिफंड की बात करनी है तो the equation is that for a taxpayer if he doesn't pay they are very harsh and there is no laws which say that you have to pay in 30 days if you don't pay in 30 days 31वें दिन आपका पहला है that's without pay so 138 का कोई नोटिस नहीं है ऐसा So, recovery के टाइम में ये this is the law, but as soon as I go to an appeal, तो कभी-कभी होता है कि पूरा order ही लॉस होता है, but I cannot recover the amount. In one case, I still remember now. In case में बहुत ही मैं कहता हूँ baseless order की basis पे बैंक से recovery हो गई और एक्सटेंडेड के लिए फिर अगर ये थी कि उसके टाइम में एक्शन नहीं है इसमें कमीशन अपील के बाद वाला ऑर्डर हो पूरा तो फाइल हो गया अपील डिपार्टमेंट में उन्हीं का अपील हो सकती है टैक्स क्रेडिट में हम लोगों को चाहिए और 2 इयर्स हो गए वो रिफंड का तो ये काम रियलिटी से रिफंड लेने में भी कोई ऐसा प्रोसेस बनाया नहीं इतनी स्पीड से रिकवरी होती है उतनी नहीं कम से कम 46 स्पीड से रिफंड मिला है रिफंड मिल जाएगा वो कोई बात नहीं लेकिन टैक्स का हमारा परसेंटेज पार हो तो मेजर्स नीड टू बी टेकन मतलब ये नहीं होना चाहिए कि रिफंड देने के टाइम को थोड़ा अपने से आइडिया करना चाहिए नॉट अ गुड रियलिटी state powers में I think I shortly covered but the current powers for the commission appeal is maximum 60 days. Between years 60 days the there is an amendment in the law this year last year that recovery of tax cannot be made for harassment or goes to measures if the taxpayers pay 25% of tax liability and fine duty. So Commissioner appeal के फैसले तक वहाँ दिया गया है in some cases 25% tax देना है considering how assessments sometimes can happen when 25% is too high the Commissioner appeal बेशक ऐसा नहीं करते but इसी जैसी restriction नहीं होनी चाहिए so this is again a very harsh reality with the 126 section. Unfortunately, there is a high court decision which says the name of price. मतलब वो प्राइस नहीं होता जो आप समझते हैं प्राइस में मतलब वो होता है जो कंपनी अपने प्रमोशन के लिए करती है वो भी प्राइस है. But respecting that judgment and whatever I expect from but till that time I think we all understand we have discussed this with the department of several times and they all agreeing with this taxing of the supply chain. Actually, what we are doing is we are taxing the people who are in the distribution channel. We are saying that any commission that is given to them or any discount that is given to them beyond the normal, which is given on the invoice, we are saying that's a price for sales promotion. And then there is a 20% final tax on that, which we are doing annually. So our suggestion is that इस लॉ में जहाँ पे there is a requirement to collect tax from sales promotion schemes, we should add a word to end consumers in the end, so that we solve the controversy. Where if there there's anything paid to a consumer, that's fine. But if something is being passed on to middleman or chain, that cannot be taxed as a distribution of license. So whether it's a distributor or a commission agent, if he's receiving something, maybe this is just a effort and the company wants to reward him more, but that does not mean that this is a sales promotion scheme that we are doing. Sales promotion scheme, essence of the income, गाड़ा के कैपेसिटी में गोल्ड का कोई या इंटरेस्ट मोटर्स कंपनी में गाड़ी लेनी किसी को नाम उसके ऊपर टैक्स लगाना तो लग रहा है बट ये मिडिल चेंज को टैक्स करके इस टैक्स लॉ का पूरा फ्लेवर चेंज कर दिया तो इसको आई थिंक लागू करने के लिए Alessandra said that I have to do so I pick up the important ones. कुछ सैलरी वालों की बात कर ले तो कॉन्वेंट की बात हो just one or two things. There are certain credits which are there in tax law, but section 149 does not cognizance of that. So the employer is not still empowered to allow certain credits like deductible allowances like zakat, section 60 profit on that, and the section 64A, and education section 64. Some of the credits are allowed, but some of these have been left out. So that's the really of exercise. I think it should be a good exercise at least. Also allowed to be involved in that, and there's a market for it now. This is smart taxpayers or selling taxpayers. There's a notional tax on employees or loans. There's a benchmark rate and the actual rate is 0 or says that the potential is high to employ. You're saying it's not fair to employee receiving the benefits of the child who are tax me also cash benefits are tax and tax. तो ये मुश्किल अगर इंटरेस्ट बेनिफिट को हुआ है उसको सस्ता में मिल गया है बैंक से अपने एम्प्लॉयर से या तो बेनिफिट को टैक्स नहीं होना चाहिए. Ultimately, the exemption threshold is $1,500,000 is exempted from the regulation of this section. या इसको भी आप 2 million करते हैं तो बहुत सारे emergency loans and small loans को cover करेंगे. So the suggestion is a suggestion from the employees as well as supported by the employer. Provident fund contributions, although they are exempt if they are getting get it, but so when a contribution is made and if it is taxed more than 50,000 per annum, that is also going to be taxed. So that is also notional because at that moment this contribution of 50,000 doesn't go to the employee's pockets. Rather, he just pays tax from the government received benefit, which he will receive when he retires. So while he is getting it, he is to get as benefit from tax नहीं करना चाहिए आपको because there are hardly any benefits which are left to tax. Alternatively, the political system is national product so many small employees will give up about this market. Then quickly I will run through a suggestion that currently information relating to goods, declaration and tax deductible deposit from the taxpayer are not visible to the taxpayer on the web portal. It is recommended that information regarding goods declaration and tax deposit in web portal should be available on the IRS web portal with CPR numbers for both tax withholding agent as well as persons whose tax is withheld. ये बड़ी आसानी हो जाएगी मैंने प्रिपेयर रिटर्न एट टाइम रिटर्न में फाइल करके फाइल अपलोड टैक्स दैट इज अवेलेबल इन माय तो वो टैक्स की किताब में बाजू में टैक्स से ज्यादा होगा टैक्स छोटे बिलियन में जमा नहीं कर रहा है उनके बिलियन से मंथ what am I credits that are appearing on and what are the tax actually my books. So if there is a gap, then you can set it. So this visibility of the data is there in the data, but it's not visible on the web portal. And visible हो जाए तो इसमें बहुत सारी मुश्किलात हमारी और डिपार्टमेंट की हो सकती है. Filing of monthly statements, what we are suggesting here is that the date of 15th of every month is clashing with the sales tax return date, and then now there are multiple sales tax returns of the provision as well. हम कह रहे हैं स्टेट को 10 दिन एक्टिव कर दे तो कंपनीज को large houses को जहाँ पे working numerous FT simply reporting only their committees, this shifting of it. I think if we have continued to receive information from this is only things we are suggesting that we have to put in collection of tax, proposal of tax, the current process that we are proposing is 7 days of the end of each week. For ease and practicality purposes, suggestion is that it has to be 7 days of the time for us to for taxpayer does not tax withholding does not have to show the tax is there and deposit it in the applications. There are certain issues in e-filing monthly statements, like the regulation option of delivering statement is not available in the portal. I think if somebody has filed a statement and there is a provision, it has to basically write to revise. Coupled with the fact that there is a penalty in section 182, which says that if there is a misstatement in the statement, you could be fined for a minimum penalty of 20,000. These are the तो गलती का आपने मॉडल के ऊपर क्लिक कर रहे हैं तो गलती के लिए थोड़ा सा I think there is a revision option available. Bifurcation of filing requirements. Here this issue especially in our organizations. There is now a single statement for all taxes within previously as a separate statement for salary and non-salary. So confidentiality purposes के लिए salary statements अलग-अलग file को better so the HR department will take care of that. The remaining deductions are reported by the finance department. There is a requirement in the e-filing web portal that the withholding agent has to clear that whatever tax is withholding is that a final tax or an adjustable tax. I think this may be possible in a few instances, but in many cases it all depends on the taxpayer whether it is final or adjustable. So this requirement to and the होता है कि वो फाइनल को अपने साथ से तो करना है कि बाद में टैक्स में में ज्यादा हो गया तो अपना क्लेम को वहां आना है इसके विरोध करते हैं मेरे ऑप्शन so this question is not be there for the even to the it should show the next aspect to get the standard. I think these were just most of the suggestions and for purpose I'm certainly more comprehensive. Given a chance to go on, we are realizing we discuss more elementary modeling tools. Some of the factors were important. If there are any other very important issues, I think the question and answer. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Madam. Madam, हमारे सामने ग्राउंड रियलिटीज को दिखाया है उसमें हमारी आर्टिकल ऑलरेडी decisions हैं ग्राउंड रियलिटीज budgetary pressure उनको इकोनॉमिक रियलिटीज के साथ मैच होना चाहिए और दूसरा टैक्स पेयर और नॉन कंप्लायंट जो टैक्स पे नहीं करते हैं उस नेट में उन दोनों के दरमियान में क्लियरली कॉम्पिटिशन होनी चाहिए. अब नेक्स्ट प्रेजेंटेशन हमारी जो बात की कर रही है और इस प्रेजेंटेशन देने के लिए आ रहे हैं Asif Harun is actually the partner there for the Internet company and he is also the winner of Indirect Tax Museum of the Park. This presentation is from Indirect proposal by
and other distinguished guests and members. Before I begin my presentation, I would like to thank my members who have helped me in developing these proposals. And I would also like to thank the tax bar who has invited me to present these proposals on behalf of the tax bar. This is really an honor for me. We have noticed that over a period of time, the members are not so forthcoming in giving their proposals, and probably the reason being that the FBR is, most of the cases, FBR is not able to amend altering those amendments which are being proposed from the tax bar, ICAR, or like that. So there is a little disappointment or little dishonesty on behalf of from the members that the FBR is seen to be not looking into our proposals. So from this forum, I would suggest that a permanent committee should be formed so that it should be proposals to be considered, deliberated, and rather than we just finish this seminar, have a tea and dinner, and then go. So, most of the cases we think that there is a little disappointment from the members which has been conveyed to the indirect tax committee, and therefore I would request that a permanent committee should be formed, which should on ongoing basis discuss the proposals which are being proposed before the final budget and also during the other. These are basically the contents and the point which I will discuss in the following manner. The first part will be related to the structural reform, which I will be explaining. The second will be the revenue measures, which I have mentioned at the top, so that the FDR people must be more interested in looking into getting those proposals. There are relief measures which I will be discussing at the current level, and there will be some proposals which relate to simplification and removal of payments. And lastly, there are certain proposals which are related to administrative reforms and the enforcement issues. The first proposal basically relating to the structural reforms is that we are aware that there are 5 tax revenue authorities and 5 different tax laws which collect through which the FPR and revenue authorities collect the sales tax and the income tax. So, from the structural point of view, the government should consider that there should be a single body, a single audit authority, single return which should be made a basis to collect tax revenues. At present, what the taxpayer knows something is that they have to respond to the notices of the 5 tax authorities and there are different rulings, different returns which they are required to file. So the first structural suggestion from our side is that the government should try to consider at least that the taxpayer should be encouraged that they have to respond to one authority or at least they have to file with one return, one return. While looking this, I am taking a reference from what is happening in the neighbor country, India. India is much larger than us, and they have very complex system, but they have been able to resolve these kind of issues. And now they have arrived at a situation where they have now one single GST law which has been developed with accessibility, preparation, and processes, and these laws are now being legislated across the country. So we should take a guidance from India that they have been able to develop a single law. They have been agreed to a GST council where all the related issues are discussed at that level. They have agreed to that there should be a one common registration number, and they have agreed that there should be a single return, and there should be a common filing portal. So if we are much smaller than India, and we have comparatively lesser number of issues than India, but they have been able to make all this matter, and they have I think that the revenue is manifold by virtue of these amendments and reforms. The second suggestion related to this specific reform is that there are very issues which are between the provinces and the federal government, and there are issues between the provinces. So these kind of issues are basically creating a lot of problems, and हमें बिना वजह हर चीज में कोर्ट जाना पड़ रहा होता है कि इस मैटर को देना है, कॉलेज को देना है, लॉ को देना है, स्कूल में देना है, सारे मैटर हम अनफॉर्चुनेटली कोर्ट में लेके जाने पड़ रहे हैं. तो it is our suggestion that there is a proper appropriate forum to be established where all these kind of legal issues can be discussed and resolved. The third proposal relates to the after the production of this right, everyone knows that now at least from a conceptual point of view, that we are establishing a very good system whereby the buyer is allowed input tax only if FBR is able to collect the system from the seller. So if this one of the biggest problem of FBR is not being on tax, then we would strongly suggest that the withholding of registered persons should be in this instance, there is withholding from the registered as well as unregistered person. But at least after the successful implementation of this right, now I believe that there is no need to require the withholding of registered persons. Furthermore, after the production of slide, FAR is also considered to remove these anti-audit provisions like 81CA, 81CAA, and bill invoices. All these are basically anti-audit provisions are related to or created to the issue that FAR are unable to collect the tax because they are the buyers are obtaining the input which have not been collected by the from the seller. Now, since this objective has been achieved, why not? And we suggest that the FBR should consider deleting or withdrawing or at least to certain extent amend these provisions so that the taxpayers are relieved from these unnecessary purposes behind these provisions. सर रिफंड के लिए एक सजेशन है मेरे लिए. इसमें रिफंड पे बहुत बातें हैं, हम पहले होते हैं रिफंड नहीं होते. एक सजेशन है कि इसमें जो रिफंड इशू होते हैं उनमें क्वार्टरली बेस पे जो टैक्स बिल पे लाना हो किसको रिफंड इशू हुआ है कम से कम ये हमें पोर्टल पे डाल दें ताकि उससे एक ट्रांसपेरेंसी और एक ट्रांसपेरेंसी है कि किसको रिफंड का इशू हुआ और उसका रिफंड कितना कब होगा. जो प्रॉब्लम्स पहले मैं बेसिकली मेंशन किया है कि जो रिफंड्स को तकरीबन ऑफिस टैक्स में तो इनकम टैक्स ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम है कि इनकम टैक्स के पहले बनाया गया रिफंड एक डिफरेंट है तो आपका ट्रांसफर प्रोसेस पॉसिबल ही नहीं है कि अनलेस के एफबीआर में जो कमीशन है वो उसका रिफंड एडजस्टमेंट जो है या अलाउ करें कि वो भी प्रॉब्लम वी फेस टू अचीव दैट पॉइंट. सेल्स टैक्स के साथ हमारी सजेशन है कि इनकम टैक्स की तरह ग्रुप टैक्सेशन का सिस्टम है तो सिस्टम में इंट्रोड्यूस किया जाए और those group companies who are eligible for group taxation and group really be allowed to basically file a consolidated return. By virtue of that, one group company of the group is having a refund of tax that can be adjusted against the output tax liability of the other group company. So they have considered that and we have checked that this group taxation system is prevailing in the UK and other countries where that's the law. In respect of Islamic financing, there is a which basically exempts the supply and Munafar transaction. It is our suggestion that this exemption should be extended to all Islamic modes of financing because we know that because of the Islamic or Sharia principle, there is a transfer of both between the first actually it's a financing transaction. So we are the federal system for equity only catered to the Munafar transaction. We have a suggestion that this concept should be extended to all the types of Islamic financing. The seventh structural reform is to do away with the retail price taxation and the schedule. in the sales tax law, these should also be considered by FBR, and FBR should try to basically reduce those special tax regimes, and there should be a simple and single basis of taxation in the sales tax law. In terms of revenue measures, the first suggestion is related to that जो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी के कनेक्शंस जो इशू होते हैं, why not that के वो इलेक्ट्रिसिटी के कनेक्शन जब तक सिस्टम रजिस्ट्रेशन नंबर या एंट्री ना हो उससे पहले इशू ना किए जाए। तो ये एक सजेशन है जिसकी बेसिस पे we are going to tag those people who are engaged in manufacturing, who are engaged in commercial activity, but they are not paying the tax. The second measure relates to that under the section 236G and 236H of the income tax ordinance, there is a collection of tax by manufacturers and commercial importers from the wholesalers, dealers, and retailers. This is a very, very important data which FBR can use it for expanding the tax net. So it is our suggestion that this provision should be expanded and reduced in a manner that all the types of goods should be considered under these two provisions, but the withholding should be restricted to the unregistered or non-NPL or non-filers to that extent, so that under these two provisions, FBR can collect the tax from the unregistered and non-filers and non-NPL holders. And since this tax is collected from the wholesaler, dealers, and retailers, this is a very, very major area where basically FBR is not able to catch these. The third layer, after the commercial importer and after the manufacturer, practically we don't have any filers in the system regime. So this is basically the area where the data of the income tax or the income tax law can be applied in an effective manner to basically increase the tax rate of the system. इनकम टैक्स की विथहोल्डिंग स्टेटमेंट्स में नॉन फाइलर्स की बहुत सारी डिटेल आ रही होती है, and different withholding provisions, there are separate withholding rules or rates for the non filers, so that data can also be extracted and consolidated, and that can be cross matched for the sales tax purpose as well. The third suggestion is that an industry-wise input-output ratio should be worked out, and that definitely would require the discussion and consultation with the stakeholders and the businessman community. But once this ratio has been determined by and large within a range, within that range, whoever is basically filing the tax returns and achieving that input-output ratio, that those people should be immune from the tax investigation and tax audit, and those people should be issued with refund check immediately. And those who are basically falling outside the standard ratios, those persons can be examined, can be looked into from whether they are basically under filing their sales tax liability or not. So this is one of the suggestions. I think that the concept of ICO exists in case of certain zero-rated categories, but that is restricted to only those who have been allowed the zero-rated regime. But that concept must be very intelligently used in other cases as well. The last suggestion relates to revenue measure is to increase the value addition tax from the commercial importers who deals in luxury goods. So at present there is a singular rate, there is a general rate of 3% which is applicable on all types of imports. So if FBR wants to basically increase its revenue, then FBR can consider collecting the MVAT tax at a higher rate as compared to the general rate of 3% in respect of the luxury goods. Though recently in the same High Court, the MVAT tax has been declared unlawful, and we think that FBR should be considering to amend the sales tax law in a manner that if FBR wants to levy MVAT, then that can be levied by making an appropriate amendment, the lacuna which has been highlighted by the same High Court. there are certain relief measures which I would like to discuss. The first is relates to we every year we basically request and we expect that there should be a reduction in sales tax rate, and we understand that there are various considerations and of the FBR, because of which the FBR is unable to basically reduce the sales tax rate immediately. But we think that we suggest that FBR should continue to look into the possibility of reducing the sales tax rate as early as possible, so that because of this higher rate of tax, the major issue of under invoicing and smuggling and like that. This only because of this higher rate of sales tax, these kind of issues these measures or these practices are being used by the businessmen to avoid the sales tax. If the rate will be reduced, then cost of doing business outside the catchment will be high comparatively. The second suggestion is that at present the further tax which is collected by the registered person, that further tax is to be deposited despite that registered person has the excess input tax. So this basically this adjustment should be allowed, and this is an unnecessary cash outflow from the registered person. In terms of simplification or removal of irritants, the first suggestion is that on certain specified goods, extra tax is collected by the manufacturers and the commercial importers. So conceptually, this is basically a mirror side of the retail tax regime. Basically, what FBR is intended to collect the extra tax is that FBR wants to collect the extra tax relating to the value addition tax on value addition beyond the manufacturer and importers. So it might be a very measure that to collect the sales tax from those people who are unable to basically file a tax and collect the tax from those people. बट इसमें जो इस वजह से इसमें जो मेजर हुआ है वो ये है कि बहुत सारे जो गुड्स हैं जो एक्स्ट्रा टैक्स regime में एग्जिस्ट करते हैं वो बेसिकली यूज हो रहे हैं अंडर द बाय द सेकंड स्टेज ऑफ मैन्युफैक्चर. अगर एक मैन्युफैक्चरर ने गुड्स बनाई है और अगर इस सेकंड उस मैन्युफैक्चरर को बेच रहा है तो एक्स्ट्रा टैक्स वाली गुड्स, तो एक्स्ट्रा टैक्स के थ्रू जो इंपैक्ट है वो इनपुट एडजस्टेबल नहीं है. तो जो इस वक्त एक जनरल ऑर्डर के थ्रू ऑटोमोबाइल सेक्टर को एक रिलीफ दी गई है, ये सिमिलर सॉर्ट ऑफ regime should be extended to other goods which are being used by the people who buy the tax subject to extra tax. Sales tax on advances, which was basically removed in 2013, which was removed in 2007, but it was restored in 2013, and that is an unnecessary hassle for the taxpayers to reconcile how much amount of advances they have collected, how much amount of sales tax they have already paid on advances, and basically this is an unnecessary basically measure which should be reconsidered by FBR. There is in respect of refund of excess input tax, there is a provision that the refund claim for the excess input tax to be filed after 12 months. This period needs to be reduced so that those registered persons who have refunds, they should be able to file the refund claim after 6 months rather than waiting for the 12 months. There are different other timelines which are basically given in the income the sales tax act and the sales tax rules. ये सब limitations कुछ हैं कि हमें बिला वजह बहुत limitation हर बार हमें टाइमलाइंस को मैनेज करने के लिए बार-बार हमें prolongations और extensions और उसमें जाना पड़ता है. If these timelines are being considered and extended by the rule, then it will resolve many administrative issues of the taxpayer, and there will be no revenue loss for the FPR. So these are basically time limitation provided in respect of issuance of debit and credit notes, time limitation for submission of the refund claim, and time limitation for compliance of section 73. ये सर टाइमलाइन जो है इनको अगर हम एक्सटेंड कर दें, that will facilitate the taxpayer and that will not basically create an issue for LPR in terms of revenue loss. Revision of revenue का आप क्या कंडोनेशंस का भी एक सेक्शन है, सेक्शन 74, उसके तले एसआरओ है, जिसमें एक लाख पेमेंट तक कमिश्नर के पास पावर है, 12 महीने की, उससे बियॉन्ड जो है वो आपके एफपीआर के पास है. It is our suggestion that this tax period should also be extended. And इसमें से एक बहुत बड़ी प्रैक्टिकल सजेशन है कि जो कंडोनेशंस पेंडिंग है उनको सब पोर्टल पे आप नजर आनी चाहिए कि उनका स्टेटस क्या है. Many a times we find the condonation in the FPR and that application is lost in FPR. So no one knows that until unless that person visits FPR and try to find out where the letter is. वो फिर condonation copy नहीं मिलती, वो processing तो उसकी दूर की बात है. In this instance, now there is no provision relating to appeal effect that should be introduced. इसकी वजह से सब एक ऑर्डर आ जाता है, जाते हैं कमिश्नर के पास, वो कहता है मेरे पास कोई सेक्शन ही नहीं है, मैं किसमें अपील अफेक्ट करूं, वो कोई ना टाइम लिमिटेशन दे देते हैं. So in terms of administrative, I would like to just that as मैंने इसको डिस्कस किया था कि जो कमिश्नर अपील के पास पावर है वो उसमें 60 दिन की उसको एक्सपेक्ट किया जाए. इसके अलावा सब जो सेल्स टैक्स में जो इनकम टैक्स लॉ में 140 सेक्शन में लास्ट ईयर एक अमेंडमेंट आई थी कि 25% आप डिमांड पे करते हैं, दैट इज अभी फाइल कर देते हैं ऑटोमेटिक. इसके है वो सेल्स टैक्स में सब है, उससे बड़ी इसमें इश्यूज रिजॉल्व हो जाएंगे. एडीआरसी से रिलेटेड भी सजेशन है कि उसको लास्ट ईयर प्रॉमिस किया गया था बजट स्पीच में, बट उसके बाद उसको अभी तक इसमें इफेक्टिवनेस इसमें आई नहीं. एंड लास्टली सर एक adjustment of sales tax refund against income tax liability. There is a letter of FBR dating back to 1999. But that the procedure laid down in that letter is so much difficult that it is virtually impossible that the adjustment जो है वो taxpayer अवेल कर सके. तो इस लेटर को सर इसको थोड़ा revisit करें और एक practical solution under the present circumstances जो इस वक्त हैं उसकी गाइड में इसको रिविजिट किया जाए सर्कुलर को, इस लेटर को, और एक प्रैक्टिकल सॉल्यूशन जो है वो दिया जाए ताकि एक ही आईआरएस के अंदर अगर कोई एक जगह रिफंड है और एक जगह डिमांड है तो वो जो है वो उसको जो है वो टैक्स पेयर इजीली अवेल की एडजस्टमेंट. थैंक यू ऑल.
Thank you, Rasid. These were the proposals made by the Joint Tax Bar on direct and indirect taxes. Bar अपने consolidated document को FPR को अभी submit करेगा after this, और we are hopeful कि FPR इसको due consideration देते हुए इस बार इसको अपनी response देने के बाद हमको accept करेगा. अब हम प्रोग्राम के अगले हिस्से की तरफ बढ़ते हैं. अगली प्रेजेंटेशन हमारी ACCA की तरफ से है. इसके अंदर से फर्स्ट प्रेजेंटेशन जो की नोट प्रेजेंट किया जाएगा फ्रॉम द ACCA, that will be done by Harun Hijan. He is head of member affairs Middle East, North Africa, South Asia. Harun has over 18 years of diversified experience in the field of technological and professional education. Harun is leading the member affairs function of the ACCA in the Minasa region. His function entails delivering member value, offering professional development opportunities to ACCA members, keeping them relevant, employable, and networking. Harun also manages the member network panel and technical subcommittees in different countries in the region. He has worked as a corporate trainer for many years and goes to his training sessions to the professionals of many multinationals. Please welcome Harun Hiljan from ACCA. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'd like to begin with a very brief introduction of ACCA. Since this is the big community of accountants and tax professionals, the name may already be familiar, but some facts that may not really new to you. ACCA is a global body for professional accountants. It was founded in 1904, and over its operation of 112 years, now expanded in around 190 countries in the world. We have about 190 ACCA, 190,000 ACCA members around the world. And in Pakistan, we are represented by our member body of about 5,000 members. I joined ACCA about 10 years back. And since then, I have seen ACCA submitting its budget proposals to the FDR. This is a topic very close to our heart. We have formed associations with many tax bars and chambers of commerce, and I like to name the Tax Bar Association. This is the second time we are doing the joint collaboration with them. We've done this collaboration with the Lahore Tax Bar, but other than that, with the Lahore Chamber of Commerce, the Karachi Chamber of Commerce, the Fiscal Chamber of Commerce, and various other chambers. I think it's very important that both associations, ACCA as well as the Karachi Tax Bar, collectively can be a louder voice when they make their tax proposals. Where Karachi Tax Bar Association can very well present the local perspective. ACCA, because of its global footprint, has a global perspective to the taxation. And while the world is talking about taxes on digital transactions, transfer pricing, etc., that's the element that ACCA can bring into discussions. ACCA's budget proposal has always been based on 12 principles of taxation. And two of the most important ones are, number one, simplicity in the tax system, which is what Mr. Rehan also mentioned, that our tax system has to be very, very simplistic. And at the same time, has to be fair and judicious. I think a lot of pre-budget seminars, this has been said, that our tax ratio needs to be improved. We need to broaden our tax base. And there have been efforts, but I think more fruitful efforts are desperately needed. Improvement in the revenue collection for the taxpayers also has been on the cards for a very long time. What I can, on a lighter note, the recommendation, and that would be that if you look around this big gathering of professional accountants, where about 200 ACCA professionals are also available online viewing this session. It's a gathering of about 500 individuals. We need more gender diversity in the tax profession. So I think on a lighter note, this could be a recommendation that I would make, that there has to be more gender diversity within accounting and finance professionals and tax professionals. I think to end with, ACCA will vouch to continue to work with the Karachi Tax Bar and other tax bars and other associations in making sure that our proposals are heard and the tax system generally benefits from the suggestions of so many professionals from across Pakistan. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The next presentation is on indirect taxes, current trends across South Asia and UAE. और ये presentation देने के लिए आ रहे हैं आरिफ मसूद मिर्जा, is BA Honors FCA. Arif Masud Mirza led as
as head of ACCA Pakistan in 1996 to 2014. Currently leading the policy agenda of ACCA across the Middle East, North Africa, and South Asia. He served as the non-executive director of India Microfinance Bank Limited and the Institute of Capital Markets during 2013 to 2016. I was technical advisor to Zambia and South Africa on the IFAC Professional Accountancy Organization Development Committee during 2012 to 2015. Member of the editorial board of the ACCA Accountancy, Futures International Journal, and recently appointed as member of the Global Reporting Initiative Advisory Group of South Asia. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Very warm welcome, assalamu alaikum, to all the KTBA members and all the ACCA members here this afternoon, and a very warm assalamu alaikum to all the fellow office bearers from KTBA on the stage, and also the representatives of the FBR here. Thank you for gracing us with your presence. My presentation is really going to give you a viewpoint of VAT, value-added tax, but also general sales tax in Pakistan, which follows a VAT methodology, so it's not much different. But largely, a lot of this presentation is derived from a research report that we commissioned here in Pakistan, which came out back in November 2016. We will go here, indirect taxes across South Asia and UAE. You will find an ACCA report that you can read offline, and it will give you a lot of the deep dive behind the presentation that's here today. A lot of what has already been said, so I'm not going to take a lot of your time. Maybe the FBR would like to impose a penalty on those who receive their presentation time and give a tax credit to those who stick to their presentation time or conferences. But anyway, let me start by looking at the tax principles that Harun touched upon just now. So there's a report that we issued called the 12 tenets of taxation. So these are the 12 commandments of taxation that ACCA believes in. And 6 of those commandments, if you like, are that whatever proposals that we suggest to the FBR, so whatever recommendations we're making to the FBR, let's ensure that they are around certainty. Let's ensure that they improve certainty for the taxpayers. Let's ensure that they contribute to greater transparency in the taxation system. Let's ensure that whatever proposals we recommend give rise to greater accountability. Simplicity, as Harun mentioned, is of critical importance so that we can better understand the tax legislation and so that we can better understand the SROs, etc. Efficiency is important. We've got a huge machinery of FBR, both at a federal level and now at a provincial level, collecting direct and indirect taxes, but it has to be efficient. The returns have to come out, the returns from the collection have to be far greater than the cost of collection. So there's and then let's not forget about human rights. We have to respect human rights when we are taxing various parties in our jurisdiction, both individuals and institutions. VAT or general sales tax is nothing new. It's been around now since the 1950s. But over the years, it's become increasingly more important as a means of collecting taxation. So from the 50s, we had VAT in the form of excise tax. Later on in the 80s, about 10 countries in total had adopted VAT or GST as a means of collecting tax from the business community. Today, in the year 2017, there is about 167 countries now implementing VAT or GST in one form or another in order to collect taxes. VAT is often regarded as a self-policing taxation. So collecting agencies, businesses around the world are self-policing themselves and collecting taxation for the government authorities. A well-designed VAT system can raise revenue on a stable and sustainable means, and this is why the decision has been taken to implement VAT across many jurisdictions. VAT is less susceptible to fraud than other taxes, so throughout the supply chain there is a collecting mechanism. So it relies upon individuals or businesses within the supply chain to account for the taxation. A commonly cited disadvantage of VAT is it can be regressive. So those individuals at the base of the pyramid can suffer VAT much more than those individuals at the top of the pyramid. Often an example cited is the use of mobile telephones. It impacts workers on daily wages, as it does impact those who earn a great deal more. Enforcement of VAT laws in a developing country can be a challenge, particularly when there's a large number of businesses in the informal sector. So a lot has already been said about identifying non-filers and bringing the undocumented economy into the documented economy, ensuring that they pay their share. The study that we performed last November, we also looked at VAT registration thresholds across the region. So we looked at the thresholds both in Bangladesh, in India, in Pakistan, in Sri Lanka, and UAE. And in dollar terms, you can see there that the dollar terms or threshold in Bangladesh is about $100,000 as a threshold. There, in India, it drops down to about $15,500 as a threshold for registering for VAT. In Pakistan, it's about $50,000, $49,000 sitting here in Pakistan per annum for a business to register. Sri Lanka, 23,000. And the UAE, we included the UAE because a lot of you as practitioners may know that the UAE, from the 1st of January 2018, is adopting the GST or VAT method in order to tax businesses there. And they're setting a limit at the moment of about $1 million is their threshold. Before the inception of VAT, as I said, there were excise duties, but I won't go into that. A lot has been said already about zero rating and exemptions and reduced rates. Many goods and services are not subject to VAT or GST at the standard rate, and in countries under the study, some are zero rated, some are subject to a reduced rate. And the things to consider, all of you are practitioners, you should know the difference between zero rated and exempt goods. Issues with exemptions and opportunities for tax avoidance, I think, have to be identified. And the goods and services that we know are already subject to zero rating are basic food items, medicines, medical equipment, and exports. In other countries, postal services are increasingly classified as exempt, and financial services, especially in Europe, are also classified as exempt because they're simply too complex in terms of financial services that they provide in order for us to calculate the VAT on different elements of that. Before coming up here, I had a quick look at the FDR website to look at what type of SROs have been issued from the start of the year, from 1st January 2017 to date on SROs on sales tax, and there's been 7 SROs from the 1st of January 2017 to date. So that means there's a new SRO every 10 days between the 1st of January and now, which again adds to the complexity. Penalties, a lot has been said about penalties. I think we must avoid penalties being used as retribution on the taxpayer. So we must ensure that penalties bring about changes in behaviour rather than retribution, and they should not be used as a means of collecting or adding to the revenue already collected. So I think a lot has been said that unnecessary collections of unpaid taxes is a way of adding to the exchequer's collection, and that should not be the case. Refunds again, from my own days of practicing taxation, I'm clearly not a tax expert, but clearly from my own days of practicing taxation, that the refund, you're normally only entitled to a refund if you were in a zero-rated industry. So therefore, you're, automatically, if you're in a zero-rated industry and you're making zero-rated supplies, you will, every quarter or monthly, you will claim a refund. If there are those who are in the standard-rated industry out there and you're habitually claiming refunds, but clearly on part of KTBA or ACCA, that can't be a situation that's perpetuated, because refunds will only arise in a standard-rated regime if there's been an exceptional input during that quarter or that period. And therefore, I think a lot of things said, but we must conceptualize refunds. We can't end up with every single member of the business community claiming a refund. So factors contributing to tax refunds, again, the design of the tax system that allows benefits and exemptions at the time of declaration, reversals of large amounts of disputed tax will give rise to a refund, design of tax system allowing credit or VAT paid to export or zero-rated sales, as I mentioned, Western-related domestic zero-rated schemes, and excessive withholding of tax at the time of purchases and imports. I think this was also mentioned earlier on as a to-do list. There was something mentioned from our friend from PwC around the IT footprint of the FBI. Clearly, I think increasingly, so as the consumers, as the members of the public and the business community have a far greater appetite for using technology than the FBI. The FBI needs to ensure that they put in the right investments into technology so that members of the business community can increasingly rely on technology, i.e. whether it's through apps or whether it's through other IT systems, rather face-to-face interaction with the FBI. So really more needs to be done in terms of investing in IT. And I won't go into the list, you can all read the list, but I'm not going to spend too much time on that. But again, some of the points from the e-tax system may include support for electronic registering, filing payments, and modernizing systems provide support to the tax administration, audit and collections function, including managing information on target areas. Some of the tax collection in South Asia critical for the development. So this is just a snapshot of what's happening in say, in Bangladesh. In Bangladesh, the per capita income is around $1,000 in 2015. Indirect taxes are the main source of revenue in Bangladesh, as they are here increasingly. The inflation rate in Bangladesh is currently at about, well, 2016, about 5.5%, and the budget deficit there stands at about 4.7% in 2015. The federal and provincial levy of tax, there's only a federal government levy, there's no provincial levy in Bangladesh, and the collection trend in Bangladesh, just so that you can really gauge where Pakistan sits in the region. So there's no unique position for Pakistan. Bangladesh's indirect tax revenue has gone up from 7.4 billion in 2011 to about 9.5 billion in 2015. So you can see in Bangladesh that they're using indirect taxes as a method to increase their collections. Indirect tax to total tax in Bangladesh, about 54% in 2015, and the total tax to GDP ratio is not very impressive, about 9.14% in Bangladesh. In India, we heard about India in the earlier presentation. The per capita income in India sits about $1,800 in 2015. The GDP in 2015 accounts for 3.4% of the world economy. So India, we all know, is a huge contributor to the world economy. The new GST is expected to be implemented in late 2017, so we can learn some lessons from the new GST system there. Inflation in India at 5%. India's indirect tax collection has gone up, and this is, surprising, $176 billion in 2011
to $232 billion in 2015. So clearly India is collecting a huge amount from its indirect tax system. The indirect tax to total tax levy in India as a percentage is about 67%. So increasingly relying upon this consumer-driven tax to contribute to the exchequer and to development in India. The total tax to GDP ratio in India is about 17.4% in 2015. Coming to Pakistan, we've now got a per capita income about $1,200 in Pakistan in 2015. Indirect taxes now account for 51% of the total revenue. Inflation rate, the official inflation rate in 2016, about 3.5%. But there are still issues, as we've heard, between federal and provincial. The pendulum is swinging. We don't know who's collecting what and when. Federal government is authorised to levy tax on goods. Provincial government is authorised to levy tax on sales, on services. The collection trend in Pakistan, indirect tax revenue has gone up from about 11.1 billion in Pakistan to about 14.8 billion in 2015. Again, you can see that it's becoming an increasingly important part of the fiscal measures that the government's taking. Indirect tax to total tax revenue, about 50% now of the total tax revenue is coming from indirect taxes, and the total tax to GDP ratio is about 12.2%. Just to put things into context, the tax to GDP ratio in Scandinavia is 67%. Okay? So in terms of the tax to GDP ratio in some of the more developed European nations, it's about 67% in Scandinavia. It's about 37% in the UK. Again, illustrating how much of those economies rely on a welfare state of providing services back to the public and business community in return for the tax. I won't dwell too much on Sri Lanka. Again, Sri Lanka relies a lot on the indirect taxes. I won't dwell too much on VAT in UAE, except to say that increasingly, I think the VAT system in the UAE is going to rely upon the skills of the KTBA and the HCCA in the future. So there can be a lot of initiatives that we can take together in order to transport some of the learning from here to the UAE, because they're desperate to learn about how to account for VAT and indirect taxes. Let me move forward. I don't want to take too much of your time, so let me read, please. There's an appeals process. This is just a tabulation from the report on the appeals process. You can see from here, it was mentioned earlier on, Bangladesh, the first tier of appeals is the commissioner. That takes about 90 days. The second tier is the appellate tribunal, taking another 90 days. We don't have a record of how long the High Court and the Supreme Court takes in Bangladesh. If you look at India, they have various appellate appealing layers for their taxation, taking 60 days at the appellate authority level, another 180 days at the appellate tribunal, taking another 60 days in the High Court. Again, for VAT, different components of it, 60 days, 180, 60. If we come down to Pakistan, we can see that the assistant or deputy commissioner and the commissioner of appeals, the first layer of appeals, takes 30 days in Pakistan. The appellate tribunal takes another 60 days. This is on paper. I don't know how long in practice they actually take. And the High Court takes another 90 days. The Supreme Court, I don't have the figures for the Supreme Court, how many days it takes. They may take a lifetime. I have no clue of how much it takes. Sri Lanka, on the other hand, has some very good metrics. In Sri Lanka, the Commissioner General takes 30 days. The Board of Review at the second stage of the appellate process takes 1 month. The Court of Appeal in Sri Lanka, on the third layer of appeals, takes another 1 month, and the Supreme Court also takes 1 month. So they're really, if you like,
walking the talk of what needs to be done in order to have a robust appeals process. So I think we can also suggest to the FDR people to look at that appeals process and try to smooth it out and rationalize it for the business community as much as possible. VAT grouping, I don't think exists here in Pakistan, but increasingly in the UK and Europe, VAT grouping is allowed for indirect, for VAT purposes, whereby companies within a group can register as a single VAT registry, and we can ensure that intercompany transactions are eliminated from accounting for the VAT, and they have one return for the entire group. That will greatly rationalize the amount of work that companies have to do there. And so another recommendation, I suppose, from the KPP and NCCA would be perhaps to set aside a small group with the task of identifying how many groups within the Pakistan business community could take advantage of VAT grouping. So I'm going to leave it there. The VAT key recommendations reduce tax concessions and tax amnesties, nothing new there. Tax limit exemptions primarily to health, education, charity, and basic essential foods. I think if you look at the SROs, there are far too many SROs giving preferential treatment to a few industries. Use the services of experienced technical experts and professionals for smooth, trouble-free VAT. I think some of that point was made in appointing officials. Reduce compliance costs and attract optimal voluntary compliance by building incentives into the tax system. Share data among government departments, organizations, institutions, authorities at a regional and a global level. Make the VAT system a seamlessly integrated, unified. Again, coming to the point that was made earlier on, that you have the 5 provinces now all sort of legislated to collect VAT or sales tax on services. You have the federal also authorized to collect GST on goods. I think there needs to be some rationalization. I think there was a grouping of people who met on the 6th of March to rationalize how better to improve the collection system for the provinces. And optimizing the application of IT, I think again that's a given that a lot of attention needs to be given to IT. So thank you all very much for your attention. Those are the broad, if you like, suggestions from indirect taxes, but they are universal in nature. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Arun. Next presentation is the last one for today, and the next presentation is the budget proposals from ACCA. And the presenter is Omar Zahir Mir. Omar Zahir Mir is an experienced accounting professional holding FCCA and SCFA charter. Currently, he is the managing partner at Millennium Law and Corporate Company and a director on the board of multiple organizations. He is the recipient of Exceptional Public Value Award by ACCA. He is an experienced trainer, having involvement in state organizations in corporate, public, and academic sectors. He is regular contributor to various national and international publications. Please welcome Omar Zahir. Please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. First of all, I would like to thank Rehan sir, his entire team, all office bearers of Karachi Tax Bar Association, the chief guest for today, Honorable Rahmatullah Wazir Sahab, Arif Masood Mirza Sahab, Harun Jan Sahab, the entire team of ACCA, Ayaz Mahmood Sahab, Menon Sahab, who was present here shortly, and all the respected dignitaries attended this session. Assalamu alaikum. There is a thing, I was actually having a joke with Rehan sir. I said, we place my presentation in last and almost everyone would have said everything. So that is the most challenge to speak when everything is done. He said, I have full faith in you. So I'll try to do what I can here. We'll try to be brief and not exceed the time. I'll also try to minimize repetitions. However, there are some points which are critical and very important. So from a different perspective, we'll also be putting ACC's point of view in front of our Honorable Chief Guest. Before proceeding, I would like to recognize and thank my Taxation Committee members. Some of them are attending today, the others are attending it via webinar being based in other cities. They are Abdul Wahab, Bilal Kafar, Junaid Abbas, Munir Malik, Mirza Fasiuddin Bey. I would request those present here if they can just stand on their seats so we can recognize them. Thank you for your contribution. There is a joke circulating on social media that a Pakistani facing the circumstances as he is filed his tax return with a note in the section mentioning dependents, 199 million Pakistanis, 10 million Afghans, and all the people not paying taxes. FBR returned his tax return with the comments incorrect. He sent it back with the comment, who did I miss? So that's another angle, another perspective that we have to look at. They say to be rational, you have to look at any situation from both points of view. Yes, there are problems, there are challenges which we have to work together to try to sort out and achieve solutions for. And this is actually a wonderful initiative, tax bars and accounting bodies coming together, raising a unified voice, hopefully in the hope of being heard more. I'll just skip the introduction, we already have a very good one, thanks to you. ACC's budget proposals, these basically are the initial summary budget proposal. We have just worked over the last year to finalize these things, and we have taken out the most important areas which we believe have the most fundamental impact on businesses as well as the revenue authorities. The proposals are divided into 6 sections. We'll start by broadening of tax base, structural reforms, direct tax, indirect tax. We will only be touching the income and sales tax, and will separately very briefly discuss about customs duty and federal excise duty. And we'll finish it off with some of the key reforms that we propose, particularly in view of the latest developments that's happening around the world for quite some time, but are now starting to impact Pakistan. First of all, for broadening of tax base, this thing has been said that there should be an increased impetus on direct taxation. Rahmat Saab has been very kind, he's been attending several events, and normally the counter argument that comes is, but people are not prepared to pay taxes. We just have 1 million tax returns. So how can we go for direct taxation? Well, we can follow a policy known as volume over margin. Why do people go towards tax avoidance? There are lacunas within the existing laws, such as Section 111, which allows businesses to run a business at a fraction of the cost as compared to someone who is paying their genuine taxes. So why would someone in their right mind pay a higher level of taxation when such lacunas are present there? Number 1. Secondly, as per our studies, the cost of tax avoidance in Pakistan is between 7 to 10%. And the corporate tax rate, the government and regulators have been very kind, they have reduced it to 31% now. So, if you are presented a scenario where you are not required to pay taxes by virtue of some regulations or some other business dealings, and you can get away by paying 7 to 8%, or you have to pay 31%, and you don't have any serious consequences, where would you go? If we all can ask this question to ourselves, we will have the answer here. Volume over margin proposed that if we can reduce our tax rates significantly to the level where they become lesser than the cost of tax avoidance, we can actually broaden the tax base. I do realize that it's a high-risk strategy. There could possibly be a threat of a significant fall in the revenues. So how about, sir, doing that as a pilot project in one of the industries that's generating lesser revenues? See the impact it creates. If it actually brings forward positive results, why not expand it? After all, the department is concerned with revenue collection, not by taxing more to a lesser base. Rather, if it's possible, taxing less to a broader base. The harmonization issue has been mentioned by Patel Saab, Rehan Saab, Arif Saab, and certainly it's one of the most important issues present at the moment. The world is going towards unification. European Economic Area is effectively finishing the borders in terms of economic activity, and we are going in a reverse direction. Anyway, it's not something that I should be asking the PR officials. This is a policy matter, but at least what the revenue authorities can do. Post 18 amendments, we have these provincial bodies. Now we have serious issues. SRB says, okay, you are operating here, you are in my jurisdiction. PRA says, well, you did business here, your transaction entered here, you are in my jurisdiction. Then FPR comes and says, actually, you know what? This was not even a service. We believe this was good. So you are in my jurisdiction. So where would the taxpayer go? At least these are the issues which the tax officials and tax bodies can sit together, chalk out, and harmonize. So at least the businesses and taxpayer have a uniform policy to follow. And sir, believe you, this would actually result in positive revenue growth for FPR. Furthermore, we can use another database which FPR has already started doing, but this can be extended more. Furthermore, we now have the models. So how about using these databases to actually bring those non-taxpaying taxmen who are not filing returns, who are not paying direct taxes, rather than taxing more and more those people who are actually filing tax returns. On this note, I remember a conversation I had with a certain finance minister. It might not be appropriate to name him here. What he shared, we were in a think tank session, and he said, you know what, when I became the finance minister, I had delegations from various bodies. And if I'll be frank enough to share this conversation, he said all of them told me, you know what, taxpayers are thieves. They are not willing to pay taxes. So give us more powers, more audits, more control, and then we will show you tax targets, the revenue targets that you have set. The guy said, I had some research study before. What I did was contrary. I allowed the universal self-assessment scheme, and I said, pay whatever tax you deem is right for you, and put your evidence there in your shop, in your factory, wherever you are operating, and nobody will bother you. No audit, nothing. Now, what does our logic say? Our present logic say that year should have been a disaster. Pakistan should have gone bankrupt that year. Well, actually, that was the only year when actual significant real growth existed for inflation. We have even started these parametric audits. We even tried or we are facing challenges. Then, maybe something show that actual taxes are being paid. Perhaps FDR along with other bodies, can agree on formalized asset valuation. However, these asset valuations should not be enforced arbitrarily. The stakeholders should be involved, and there should be a safe manner of adoption. Almost a cycle of years, implementation and phase implementation. And the results are in front of everyone. There have been significant improvements in US tax collection. Furthermore, on structural reforms, we would request that no position should remain vacant for more than a this result in delays, and time certainly is money. The more delays they are not just delaying the taxpayers' matters, they are actually resulting in the business cycles slowing down. And the result of that is the size of the cake is actually comparatively smaller. And the possible collections of FPR also are negatively affected. So if we can address this thing, there can be positive effect. This point has already been discussed. That we not just the tribunal, but we believe in the entire appellate operators of taxation, entire operators should be separate from the revenue collection. It is only fair, just, and transparent. How can someone who has worked or is affiliated with the revenue collection function, no matter how competent they are, can be neutral when it comes to the counterpart? Throughout the world, the process is such that the appellate process is given to a different authority, to a judicial authority. The revenue collection officers should not ideally have any role in that. If there is something due to the revenue authority, it should be. And if there is a neutral body that can decide. But if we don't do that, what happens? The confidence of taxpayer in the system, which is already at a significant further reduces. And the result is the vicious cycle that we are facing at the moment. The outstanding refunds issue, quite a lot has already been said on this. I actually had a discussion with a few friends in the finance ministry, and they were saying different things. And I said to them, well, why don't you look at it from this perspective? That the refunds that you are not issuing, I'm not talking about those refunds that are in the process, I'm talking about those refunds which are clear, which are finalized, they have been verified, they have been delaying methods, etc. What's happening right now is there is a liquidity crunch for those businesses. That is slowing down their businesses. That's also impacting the exports negatively, which in turn is impacting the fiscal deficit, which in turn is leading to costly borrowing. So wouldn't it be much more sensible to address this issue? And perhaps we will be adding in our proposals, and Mehmet Saab can take our feedback to the higher-ups. The mechanism at FPR, the valuation mechanism at FPR should not solely be revenue collection. I mean, this is, I personally believe, something which is highly unjust with the officers. Because if I put myself in their shoes, if they have been told you will only be assessed and judged on the basis of revenue collection, what are they supposed to do? But what we are missing here is the impact on the businesses, the impact on the business ecosystem in the country, the impact on the economic growth. So perhaps the impact on the relevant industries in the relevant zone should be given some weightage. The reputation of the officer should be given some weightage. Give maximum weightage, give 50%, 60%, even 65% to revenue collection, even 70%. But start giving these things importance if you want to overhaul the system. And believe me, that would also give you the trust of the taxpayer. Another important suggestion is that a foreign sunset trade agreement with the Afghanistan should be reviewed. Proper checks should be put in place, especially as to the genuine Afghan requirements should be done. We all know how this treaty is being misused, and the result of that is the impact on genuine businesses as compared to those who are using this loophole in the system in certain ways. So this is also a proposal to review AT. Resolving the issues with IRIS, making it more user-friendly. This has been discussed in extensive detail along with the request to allow revision of sales tax returns with holding statements, sales tax returns, especially more so after the introduction of the strike system, where actual invoices are being matched. So there is no point left now that there is any possibility of fraud or loss to the revenue. And this is something perhaps that can be implemented. Another thing that we propose and have been proposing for quite some time is the reduction in the discretionary powers of the officers. FPR is a very competent body. We have very learned officers like Rahmat Saab himself. Certain studies have been carried out too. International agencies are also collaborating and funding it for various studies. Mechanisms should be devised to set up objective criteria rather than giving officers voluntary powers. Because if the taxpayer can abuse the system, our learned officers, we hold them in high regard, but when they are under pressure for revenue collection, they are also on the team. So it goes two ways. If you want to introduce some faith in the system, this is something that should be seriously considered. One thing that we'd like to appreciate is the differential policy with regard to filer and non-filers. That's been pursued. That's a really good step and should be continued and expanded to encourage people to come within the documented economy. Corporate tax rates, we have already discussed, should be reduced. If we cannot make serious reduction, the FPR should at least propose to bring it down within the region of 20 to 25. The lesser the burden, the more chances of broadening the tax base. And there was a certain tax that was introduced in the last Finance Act, and the result of that was the cash reserves. Although banks do not admit that publicly, but in our private discussion, I've been working with several banks implementing various products. They have accepted that their deposits fell significantly. The result was a significant cost to the economy. So if there are to be any such new changes, it should be in a phased manner. And corporate tax rate should be reduced in the region of, we propose at least 20 to 25%. Section 1114, whenever we raise that issue, we are told, you know what? The problem is, foreign remittances are vital for the country. Do you want expatriate to be taxed? No, we don't. We believe these are vital. But there is a simple solution to it, which is hardly a single one that can be inserted, and that would be the end of it. Right now, Section 1114 allows you that if you are getting this remittance from abroad, so banking channel, no tax, which is fair enough, good, should be continued, and no question asked. Why? I mean, when I was working in UK, I had to send money to Pakistan. I had to tell them all the things, and it was no problem. I was working in a particular accountancy firm. I told them, okay, I'm working there, this is my salary, this is the money I'm sending to my family. Fair enough, nice and easy. Why can't we do that? We continue the policy of not taxing it, encourage genuine Pakistanis, but just introduce the requirement of a declaration along with the evidence of the source of funds. An expatriate who is working there or running a business has no problem. They have documented economies, they have all the documentation. Genuine businesses would have no problem. Only the chapter of IRS would be closed. So, sir, perhaps this is something you might like to consider and follow. Section 1113, minimum tax. This was, people say Pakistanis don't make inventions. We say come to FPR, come to our taxation system. This was an ingenious Pakistani invention where we created a transactional tax, which is by nature indirect tax. Indirect taxes. Now, I appreciate the perspective of FPR. Again, the same thing, the nature of the economy is not documented, the problems they face. But on the other hand, if a genuine business is making losses and you are asking them to pay a tax on their turnover, you are practically creating liquidity hurdles for them. And you are actually pushing them out of the business. I mean, this is very good for the existing players in the sense that it would be harder for new players to enter any industry because the cost would be higher, the liquidity required would be higher. What we propose is, we appreciate it might not be practical to abolish it altogether right now, but at least it can be reduced to 0.4 to 0.5%, which is what has already been offered to certain sectors, as you know well. We believe this would result in improving the business ecosystem in Pakistan, making it more friendly for new entrants to enter the different sectors and industries, and hence lead to better growth. Section 152 regarding payment to non-residents, Section 153, subsection 4 empowers the Commissioner to issue exemption certificates, particularly in cases where underlying payment is not chargeable to tax. We propose the same should be done for non-residents because we know practically refunds are creating a big issue. So if the underlying payment is not taxable, it's only reasonable and common sense to issue the exemption certificate rather than going through the route of collecting refunds, which practically can't happen. Section 153. So don't you get bored by listening to this all the time, everywhere? Actually, what happened with Section 153 was a very interesting story, and the time is very limited to cover that. But I'll just share with you something very interesting for most of us. FBR has actually been supporting what we have been proposing. They made representation in front of the President of Pakistan and various appellate forums proposing that this should be addressed. So we are actually backing up FBR in that, in proposing this. So the main thing is this, FBR rightly is focusing on corporatization and recording, documentation of economy. If this tax is made adjustable or reduced to a significantly lower level, like the bills are suggested, 2%, we actually back that up. Just imagine the possibility. Service sector, as we all know, are hardly making revenues margins of between 2 to 5%. Service sectors are not earning exorbitant margins like 25, 50, or 100% margin. So if a sector is surviving on 2 to 5%, and we are asking them to pay 8% to us, what we are practically doing. The good thing in this is the exemption certificate that's a way out for the businesses right now, but we would like to suggest this very strongly that please consider this. As per our studies, this would have a serious revenue impact in positive terms for the employers. 156 regarding prices and winnings. With regard to companies, the prices should be properly defined. Perhaps this is a proposal that certainly would need to come be forwarded and then come approved from the Parliament. So we are handing it over to you. We will also share it with our respectable finance minister for election. The prices may be defined as prices offered by companies for promotion of sales means in a lottery competition or contest of chance, not by taxing the supply, which in the first place was not even the intention of the regulation. Section 170 regarding refunds. Well, I think the only solution is that we should follow the law in letter and spirit, right, sir? Section 170 says the commissioner will decide the application within 60 days. Practically, hardly there would be a superstar commissioner in this. We all know that. So how about introducing a penal clause, not for the commissioner, for the authority? Meaning, it should go both ways. If they are working efficiently, they should be efficient. If they are not working efficiently, why should taxpayer be penalized? How about introducing this clause that if the commissioner do not decide the application within the prescribed period, it would be illegal. Mean reject it. By all means reject it. Don't keep it on your plate. You have 60 days. You don't think it's on merit, refuse that. No problem. There are other elements. but don't keep it on your table for 6 months or a year, in some cases 2 years. That's the next. Section 177 regarding audit should be amended to clarify that powers can be exercised in cases of existing audits and not as a tool for audit selection, which we believe is the purview of the court.